Hey, what's up, guys? In my post-fight video to the BJ Penn fight, I was talking about how the UFC blew it and asked why did they book BJ against a 24-year-old Yair Rodriguez in what was a lopsided fight. They did the same thing with CM Punk when he had his first fight against Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall was a 24-year-old kid, and what CM Punk was, 37, 38. Had been training MMA for a year or a little bit more, and he was going up against a younger, more athletic guy, of course, faster guy, and a guy who had been training MMA for 8 years. Who had what does he have, like a brown belt in jiu-jitsu in BJJ. And I don't understand it, man. I don't get it. They have blown it with both of these guys. Look, when the old guys fight in Bellator, do they put them in with young studs? No, they put them in with guys who were in or were or are around their era. And if they would have booked a CM Punk against a guy who was around his age, from I would say mid 30s to 40, or early 40s, hell, a guy who was very limited in experience, very inexperienced, who had not been training long, they could have found a guy like that. Hell, just go around the gyms all over the country, and they could have found a guy, that was limited, who was just starting out. It probably would have been an ugly fight, but at the same time, the playing field would have been even. Going against Mickey Gall, it was not even. They basically just used Punk to make Mickey Gall, to make him a star, to give him a name. That's all it was. And they did the same thing with Yair Rodriguez. BJ, like I said in the post-fight video, they should have got a guy in his mid to late 30s or 40, early 40s, to go against BJ. Somebody who would be around the same speed level, reflex level. Now, of course, BJ has experience, unlike a CM Punk. So it would have been a lot easier, to find somebody for BJ Penn. Hell. And then that way, if those guys would have won, it's not guaranteed that they would have, but if they would have, then they could have squeezed more fights out of them. They could have done more with them, but now it's just like, does anybody want to see him again? Now, me personally, I would like to see CM Punk again. He just went in there and made a dumb mistake going in there all open and got taken down, instead of, being smart. And I remember after that event, they were talking about, maybe he shouldn't fight in the UFC for his next fight, and I just laughed to myself, because I'm like, look, man, you got Bellator out there. They just gonna let him go over to Bellator and they get millions and millions of viewers on Spike TV in ratings? No way. It was no way that was gonna happen. If the man say he want to continue, guess what? They got him signed to a deal. They best keep him right there in the UFC. If they don't put it on pay-per-view, they can put it on Fox, or they can put it on FS1 card, and get them viewers, man. Hell, because he would go right over to Bellator, and Scott Coker will book him right. Because if you recall, look, when Scott Coker had Herschel Walker, did he put him in there with title challengers? No, he put him in there with guys that we had not heard of. Shit, I don't recall the guys' names that Herschel Walker fought, but I certainly don't remember seeing them since. I don't remember them saying, man, this was the guy that Herschel Walker fought. Like, no, they booked old Herschel against, guys who Herschel could beat, who weren't world beaters, and that's what they should have done with CM Punk and BJ Penn, and they could have squeezed out extra fights out of them guys, and people would have, they could have justified bringing them back instead of like a one and done type thing, keep their value. So I just had to say this, man. I don't understand it. Could they have kind of like a seniors division maybe. I mean, it would take away from the value. You know, if you had a bunch of Shamrock Gracie fights, I wouldn't necessarily want to see that. But you know, for BJ Penn, man, look, you got to book the guy against someone from his era. You know, someone with his age. You know, with similar speed, similar reflexes. You know, not some young, sharp, top 10 fighter. It made no sense, man. It made no sense. And same thing with a CM Punk, man. You know, find a guy who's just starting out. Hell, he could have been, maybe he could have been in his 20s, but not somebody who had been training for years, man. You know, find somebody that was new, that was fresh. You know, somebody around his age would have been, preferable. And yeah, and maybe Punk could have won. And then, they could have squeezed out that extra fight instead of going into the next fight being like, well, he lost, he's not that good, all that kind of stuff. So that was on my mind, man. Just want to drop that, and hope you guys having a good one. Take care.